Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a new episode of Iblis Manifestations podcast. On this week's episode, it's my absolute honor and privilege to have none other than Mateusz Śmierzchalski, aka Havoc, from the musical project Blindead, but also known for his previous efforts with the very well-known Polish black metal band Behemoth, particularly on the Thelma Point 6 and the Zoski Occultus album cycles. He is also known for his touring works as a guitar tech with bands like Emperor, Dimmu Borgir, Katatonia, Therion, and the list goes on. This was a conversation I was very much excited and was looking forward to having, and I think that despite it being probably the shortest guest episode we've had thus far, one of the richest conversations that we've actually had on this podcast. We discussed a lot of things in regards to his time in Behemoth. We also discussed certain elements of addiction. But we also very much got into the topic of life in general, universal exchange, how certain little actions can have chain effects for the rest of your life, and one little thing can change things for the better, or worse, perhaps. Anyway, I won't keep you guys any longer for this introduction. As always, thank you very much for supporting Iblis Manifestations, and I hope that you guys will enjoy this episode. Now, please welcome Mateusz Śmierzchalski, aka Havoc, to Iblis Manifestations.
Yeah.
And it's it's all kind of strange, the new circumstances, and my sobriety and my bipolar, and thing, and it definitely takes an effort to stay intact, after changing the time zone and going back to work in general, with the intensity of it all. But yeah, to answer shortly, I'm really good right now today. How about you?
Awesome to hear, man. Yeah, I'm doing quite good as well, actually. I've been working since 6 a.m. And then I went to the gym, and then I've just come straight here to talk to you. And
Pumped up. Oh, pumped up.
yes.
All right.
Well, actually, for nostalgia's sake, just at the gym now, I actually just had Zoski Occultus on, and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna go talk to Havoc right now.
All right. That's cool.
So yeah, no, it was great, man. So obviously, this is actually what I was gonna ask you as well. Like, how was it even being back in the whole live situation? Because obviously for yourself, I understand that a lot has changed. Like, you refer to it as a breakthrough. So how did it feel being back? I mean, with Emperor, working with them, just being around that many people again. And then obviously you did London at Incineration, which I went to, but you also did South America as well, and that looked like a pretty compact fucking schedule. So how did you find that, actually?
Oh, I was preparing for that for the past month or so before I left, because I was waiting for it. Luckily, in the whole situation with the pandemic, I kind of see it as a sort of a blessing for me, because I had enough time to come accept what's been put ahead of me in general, like, the whole realization of the issues I'm facing, and just accepting that was a long process, and basically together with getting sober and on medication, finding the meds, it's been it needs time, and the pandemic gave me that time. So that's a kind of a blessing in disguise. I think you call it that way. But I've been going through different stages of my therapy, and the time that it took was seemed to be perfect to prepare and get me ready to go on back on tour, um, with with a new approach, with the new mindset, basically, because the way it feels after all my life being unaware of my issue, and just making mistakes most of my life, because I didn't know, because I wasn't aware that I should be on treatment. So, long story short, when I knew that the touring is going to happen, actually, I got a little bit back with all my vlogging and everything. I kind of closed myself in, uh, just to prepare myself mentally to face the everything that comes with touring. So I knew there's going to be people drinking around me. There's going to be a
Mhm.
lot of people, which sort of it may sound weird, but after all these years, it turned out that that I was sensing sort of anxiety before, when I got sober and on treatment. So I was working on that, but I basically stay away from social life in general. Like daily. Uh, but this was different, and I did sort of a preparation based on all kinds of stuff, like meditation, and just projecting everything that might happen there. So when it came to doing the first two shows in Europe, because there was two shows in Europe before we went to Latin America. It was Carmageddon in Norway with Emperor, and there was another one in London, Incineration Fest. We've been texting, but
Yeah, yeah.
uh, that was really nice. You were understanding that I wasn't really getting out, hanging out with people,
Of
Uh,
course,
but
man.
those
I understand that part
but those
completely.
two, to be honest, they were sort of a shock, like so many impulses, around, and
Right.
so I was basically concentrating on doing my job, and luckily, the bunch of people, around the emperor and the emperor guys themselves, they are so good. I mean, such wonderful people, and understanding, and it kind of felt like I came back to a family I haven't seen for a long time. So this was helping a lot, and the shows went great. I came back home, and for 2 days, and then we left to Latin America, which turned out to be a fantastic experience, because it wasn't very intense when it comes to the schedule in general. There was only four
Mhm.
shows, and I think it was 10 days that we spent there. So there was like travel days, there was days off that we had in Mexico City, and
Yeah.
in Bogota, Colombia. So I, you know, it was actually after all these years. I've been there so many times with different bands, but I never went sightseeing for real. There was always some some other choices, like
Yeah, yeah,
partying, or stuff
of
like
course.
that. Of course, it was different times, but I always missed the part of the experience of the place. Kind of, if there was free time, we were just hanging out and getting drunk and stuff. Now I was prepared for those days off, and I have friends over there, so I made sure that I have organized time to spend over there. So we had people that took us to the pyramids in Mexico City. I mean, near Mexico City.
All right, very
Uh,
cool.
that was wow, that was amazing, and
Yeah.
and we had a great guide, Franco, who's a friend of everybody I know. It turned out, you know, so many people in common, and basically it turned out that we're the same age and only a few days difference, like born in the same month and stuff. We
All
started
right, cool.
discussing. Yeah, we clicked like one of those bromances, like right away.
I got you.
so
Yeah.
so we talked all day, and he's got such a huge knowledge about the history of the place, and it was great to have a guide like that through those places, and yeah, and then I had my really good friend from Bogota, Maria, that took care of me on my day off in Bogota, where all kinds of stuff could happen, for me. But I'm just laughing about it because the whole substance abuse is not really a problem when it comes to me quitting it. Comparing to what I'm struggling with when it comes to the bipolar thing. The whole substance abuse is just like, I don't know. Somehow I took another path, and I'm okay with people drinking around me. It's not like I'm shaking and super addicted and like give it to me, give it to me. It's more like it's more like I understood that the whole substance abuse was in fact an attempt to self-medicate, in the past. So since I am on meds which are working, and the whole strategy that I have, is working as well, all I have to care about is keeping the balance in my head, and when you're changing time zones and altitude and all this, it kind of is a big challenge. When I was there, it was fine. When I came back to Europe and home, first I visited my parents for a few days, and I was like, it kind of felt like it's a movie or something. I don't know. It's weird it's hard to explain. It's just the whole jet lag experience plus being bipolar, and trying to keep the routines intact, and taking meds at the right time, because that's important. The whole thing took actually a whole week. Today is the first day that I feel some kind of balance.
Oh, perfect.
So
So we
yeah,
picked the right day to have this conversation then, yeah?
yeah,
Cool,
perfect.
man. That's excellent to hear. Well, I mean, I think from the sounds of it, you got to give yourself credit, man. I mean, I know how hard that can be to go back into that environment. I mean, I myself, I pretty much don't drink anymore or anything else really, so I can actually relate to you in that sense. For me, it's um, maybe for different reasons, but probably rooted in similar stuff. Because I think if you think about it, I think the pandemic, what it maybe allowed for a lot of us was that I think there may have been a lot of things for everyone. I mean, especially musicians, man. I mean, I think naturally speaking, we're more sensitive people to a lot of things, to emotions, to life experiences. But at the same time, it involves, especially in the case of metal and rock and roll. I mean, it might be extreme metal, black metal, but it's still rock and roll at the end of the day. And that's such a larger than life thing.
Yeah.
And I think that for us having all of those things, I think that many people, I mean, obviously with yourselves, with way more years of experience behind you compared to myself, but I think it's the same thing, where it's like you have to find certain comfort zones, or you do naturally and end up finding comfort zones of what makes the whole experience tolerable. I mean, it's what you want to do, but at the same time, there's certain difficult elements to it as well that you mentally gotta balance yourself with. And I think a lot of what we found as ways of comfort and as things that we could at least mentally lean against throughout the years to obviously make the whole thing happen, I think it all kind of went away with the pandemic. The outlet and the escapism perhaps wasn't there anymore. So in a way, I think that obviously, as difficult as the transition was, I think for some maybe harder than others. Generally speaking, I feel like this was good because it allowed for a lot of the shit that might have been buried throughout the years to kind of come back to the surface. And then now all of this stuff that's kind of built over the years, you now have to deal with it head on. At least that's how I personally found it as well.
Yeah, because we were sort of left alone, locked
Yeah,
alone because of the pandemic, and like no more social meetings, for a while and stuff like that. You had to reevaluate everything, and basically face the stuff that you were hiding, or just putting on the side, for later.
yeah,
But I think the whole thing with substance abuse, it's like we are as artists, as you said, more, a bit more sensitive, for all kinds of impulses from around. Uh, then there is the macho rock and roll myth,
sure.
which I think is to a certain point is good, to scream it all out, to be wild, and do all this out of control stuff, get drunk with friends, yeah, whatever, But the thing is that um, it all happens for a reason, So we scream the hell out of ourselves, with we abuse our bodies, to feel pain, or you know, uh, especially in the black metal world. I think people know what I'm talking about. Here it's like there's this there's this wild need of uh, I don't even know how to put it in one word, but to feel,
Mm.
to experience, like to feel every sorts of uh, emotions that people are putting, they're hiding or whatever, or just what's the word? I'm looking for an English word, but anyhow, I think that at a certain point you realize that it's a cycle. You know, it's
Yeah.
it's it's uh it's a cycle which ends. It ends with your death, or it ends with you uh, being reborn in a new cycle. And that's how I see it. That's I think my wild uh, youngster cycle ended. It lasted for long enough. I'm 40 this year. So I think it's about time. And anyways, the way I see things in life, from the new perspective right now, it kind of gives me a high that nothing else could give me. And I see things clearly. You know,
Mm.
at least from my perspective, it seems that way. But I think that I was never ever in the past so focused on myself in a good way. Just to use all my creativity, to learn how to use it without using substances, because it was kind of connected before, and there wasn't really a conscious decision to do it this way. It was more like just getting into the myth of substance abuse creativity. It was like in one line, for me at least, for quite a long time. And uh, I think it all was meant to be that way. But right now, I discovered that I can be creative much more, and I feel it more intense than ever before. The way I write music right now, or when I work on some photos, and when I start working on creative targets that I set for myself, like a documentary movie of about my grandfather, and this is really happening. I mean, it's going to be a long process, but this is something that makes me feel connected to my roots, and my grandfather is such a strong persona when it comes to me growing up. He kind of is my mentor, even from behind the grave. He's still there. He's like, there's these quotes that I remember, and now it's like I thought it's time to tell his story, to a wider audience, because it's quite exceptional. So I really started doing things for real, after the whole transformation, or beginning the new cycle. I don't know where was the question actually, but I
It
think
wasn't even it wasn't
yeah,
even so much a question. I was just saying that you've done quite well
yeah.
because I mean, you
Thank you.
mentioned this yourself. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you mentioned this yourself. I mean, looking back at it, how many years have you even been in a band, and from such a young age? And obviously with Behemoth, I think you were in your early 20s when you were playing with them during those
I
years,
started.
correct?
I joined Behemoth when I was 17.
17. See,
Yeah,
that's
my first European tour. I was still 17. You know,
right.
so
That will
that
have
was.
been early 2000s, right? I think you joined
Yeah,
them just after
yeah.
Satanica, if I'm correct.
Yes, I joined the band in mid 1999.
Oh, okay.
That was the first meetings we had with Adam, and the first, like, Inferno just, I think he left the band for a while at that point, and it was just me and
That's
him.
right.
It was just me and him
Yeah.
rehearsing the songs in his bedroom. so that was, and we were actually driving around and looking for a drummer, because I don't know, I didn't even get into it. They had some sort of misunderstanding with Inferno, which was resolved afterwards. But that was mid 1999, and the first show I played with them was in November 1999, there was a few Polish shows, which I will never forget because they were like my first shows ever. I didn't play anything with any other band before, so I
Right.
was so I was thrown directly in front of a few hundred people, because Behemoth was kind of it was known in Poland, already. So so
Well, I
yeah,
tell you,
so
man, my first impression of you as a musician was actually, I mean, right, let's go back a while here, okay? I obviously, for anyone who might not be aware, I think most people are, but I'm from Iran, okay? I was born and
yeah,
raised in the Islamic Republic of Iran, okay? So
I know
metal,
that.
yes, yeah. I know. You know, I'm saying like for anyone
Yeah,
else
yeah,
like listening
sure.
at the moment, but so basically, metal is already illegal, right? So that's its whole thing, you know, and then religion is a big problem and it's mixed with politics and all that, you know, it's a long story. But basically, I think I managed to get hold of Behemoth bootleg DVD just before my 15th birthday. And this was actually, I don't think this will have even been long after you joined the band, but you've got this really old DVD, Live in Eschaton,
Yeah,
right? Which is
yeah,
in,
yeah,
I think, famous Polish stage, you know, where you've got like the,
yeah.
I
The
think,
crate
like a lot of
and
like really well-known like black and death metal
yeah,
bands in like late 90s used to play there, I think, because I
yeah.
recognize.
Also, there was like My Dying Bride and Tiamat, recording there. It
That's
was
right.
it was TV.
Yeah, man. Sorry.
Uh,
So you were saying, yeah, Tiamat and My Dying Bride played there, and I
yeah,
think I
it was.
actually remember a video of Vader as well from
Yeah,
maybe like '97 or something playing
yeah. It was.
Sodis.
This was a Polish TV studio in
Right.
Wang near Krakow. Krakow, yes, that was in Krakow, and it was organized by Metal Mind Productions, which was like the major uh, metal label in Poland back then. It was like they were releasing all the official metal on cassettes and CDs, and also Tomek Jubinski, the owner of the whole thing. He was the main promoter of this old legendary festival in Poland called Metal Mania, which was happening in the 80s already, and so that was that his persona was behind all of these official DVDs and I mean VHS back then,
That's right. Yeah.
uh, because it was released on VHS first, and that show I believe was filmed in the year 2000. As far as I remember, it was the year 2000 in the fall. So I was 18 years old. Yeah, 18.
Yeah, that's crazy. I think, yeah, from my memory as well, I think that's correct because I believe that was just after Satanica. Because I remember that they actually had the music video for Decade of Therion
Yeah,
on the package, you know, which was I think just Nergal on his own, you know, with like
yeah,
this
yeah. Because
CGI kind of stuff.
that was when the whole transformation happened. Actually, after Satanica, they played one tour with the old lineup, and then he was left alone, looking for new people, and so that's why it was only him and Decade of Therion, and
Yeah, well,
on that show, it had to be before the album I recorded with them with before Telema Point Six because we didn't play any songs from Telema
no.
there. It was mainly the Satanica and Pandemonic Incantations and some older stuff as far as I remember. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. No, I remember because around that era, I mean, even back then, you know, he was a very he was a very interesting frontman, you know, and for me, it's interesting watching his evolution throughout the years, especially. But I remember how obviously you've got you used to do that little tapping bit in Decatotherion just for like one bar or the two bars, and I think this was like I think the first time I actually saw anyone using a pick
Oh, okay.
to do the
Yeah, yeah.
tapping on the guitar. And I remember he would always turn around and point to the side of the stage and say Havoc, and then you come in and do the ding,
Yeah, yeah.
and then the band would kick back in again. I used to fucking love that shit, man. I
That's
remember like I was like
that's
15 at the time, and I'd watch that and I'd be like, oh fuck, cool, right? You know.
that's funny. That's funny you brought that up because I think he did the same thing when we were doing this 25th anniversary of Behemoth in Warsaw, which was these two gigs sold out. We were playing this. It was just this insane lineup of all of the original musicians, basically.
Is that
That
what you played Horns of Baphomet with them?
No, 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 no. I played Horns of Baphomet on another show in our hometown. That
Right,
was
I
like
see.
one off time that I did. I did one song with them. That was a bit later, but
Right.
in 2017 in December we did this big show. There's two big shows in Warsaw where all of the members, it was there was like 20 songs in the line on the set list, and it was like the main nowadays Behemoth set list, and starting from the first ever written song, uh, played with the original guitar player who never ever played a show in his life actually.
Right.
Yeah, they started the band as kids, and
Yeah,
and
yeah.
uh, and then he left. He moved out in the first part of '90s to. He moved out to, I think, study on in Harvard or something.
Oh,
And
okay. Cool.
yeah, and he flew in to Poland to play two shows on which on each of these shows he played one song. So he
Wow.
flew in from Boston to do that. I must say it was an amazing experience, the whole thing, because it was the first time in history when all of the members of the like the main lineup members of Behemoth gathered in one place, for for almost a week, because we had rehearsals before, and then there was these two shows. And coming back to where we started, I performed Decade of Therion
Right.
on that show. And yeah, you just reminded me that he did it again, that
Ah,
Havoc, and I did that tapping. And you know I mean I haven't been playing these songs for like, what was that, like 13 years at least, or 15 years by that point. And that tapping with the pick, it wasn't something that I was doing naturally. It was just there where I was playing Decade of Therion as a kid, and so I did it. But it was amazing, performing these songs. I did like four songs with them, and it was fantastic, to play it. It felt like, like there's this it's like riding a bike you never forget, so
sure.
it was a bit stressful, because I haven't been doing this for that long. But when I went on stage, it's almost like I became the character, like instantly. And I did stuff that it was like muscle memory,
Hmm.
like I sang some backing vocals just automatically, even though I didn't really plan to do it,
All
and
right.
the whole thing was, it was kind of it was wild, it's like I had this wild energy uh, from back in the day when I was young, and as probably you remember, I was when I had long hair and I was performing with Behemoth, I was pretty quite aggressive on stage, like with the
Yeah,
with the head banging and the windmilling, it's like it was,
definitely. Yeah, yeah.
and We're talking 2017, so I already cut my hair. It was just like these leftovers, you know. Or I kept it like on the side, you know. So there was something to headbang, but it was automatically happening, like the whole movements from 15 years back, you know. And it was a moment to remember, like a very very good gathering of everybody that was involved over the years, and it was I think I told Nergal back then, and when I was doing the podcast with him, I also mentioned it that I think it's one of his biggest successes. You know, like he managed to have all the members, like most of the members that were in the band, in one place, and there's no bad blood. You know, there's no bad vibes, only good vibes. You know, so so that's really something. It doesn't really happen often, you know, when bands change lineups, you know, people have problems with communication, and here it's a bit otherwise, I think, you know. I mean, for me especially, Adam became a very good friend after I left Behemoth, you know. We actually became very close. uh I mean, after the whole leukemia thing, you know, and obviously he had this transformation of his own, you know,
Oh yeah,
and
of course.
you know, and we're really good buddies, and he's one of my best friends still, you know. So so that's that's quite something, you know, after all these years.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, yeah, it's an insane journey. I mean, I've that's you know, for me at least, being back in Iran, that was always a band that I very much looked up to, especially because of the whole, you know, the versus Christianity thing. You know,
Yeah,
to me that was always a fuel because I always clashed with Islam over there. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
I can
And
imagine. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So that always fueled my fire. You know what I mean? Watching those bootleg DVDs and just seeing what the band was doing, but then also actually,
How
because
did you
obviously
get? How did you get all this stuff over there?
I got them. Let me think.
I'm
Right.
just
So I
I'm
think
just really curious how was it working? You know, because it was banned, right? Already.
yeah, yeah. So I believe, especially these particular DVDs. I think actually the Behemoth one must have been one of my very first few. I would say maybe five or six, you know, which is so funny that it's such an early one of the band and the quality, even though it's still good for the time, is nothing compared to like what then happened afterwards, even compared to like the Crush Fuck Create DVD that like
Yeah, yeah,
then
yeah.
came like only like 2-3 years later. For me, I believe I actually bought those from my guitar teacher, if I'm correct. So I had a
Oh,
guitar teacher, and he knew someone. So in our house, we had dial-up internet, right? It was 2 kilobytes per second. On a good day, 3 kilobytes. Okay. You can imagine the amount of time I used to spend actually rotting on a computer waiting for a song to download. And sometimes at 80%, it would like cut off and say
oh
download
yeah.
failed. So I had to do it again. I've been, you know, it's a different thing, but
It teaches
um,
you patience.
absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
I've learned it hard and well. But yeah, to your point, my guitar teacher, he knew someone who had this other internet, which I can't remember what we used to call it. It's still not as good as, say, for example, what me and you have now, but it
Yeah.
was a little bit faster. So I would pay him to pay his friend to download something and then print it onto DVD and then sell it to me for like probably cost like 1 or 2 euros at the time, you know, and that's how I got hold of this shit, you know, and then
Yeah, yeah.
I would literally sit down in my room watching it and watching it over and over and over and over and over again. I mean, we spoke about Decade of Therion. I tell you one thing. This I've not posted much about this a lot, but I'm happy to show this to you after the podcast as well. But On my 15th birthday, I actually, so this is in Tehran. I invited maybe 5 or 6 of my friends to our house. And in our living room, I set up, you're familiar with Guitar Pro, right? Like the program Guitar Pro. It's just like the
Yeah,
tablatures and stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
I never used it, but I know what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. So basically it's just like really low quality MIDI sounds, you know. So
yeah,
I
yeah.
got the tab for Decathlon, right? And
Okay.
I plugged in the bass and the drums into this shitty amplifier, and then I plugged in my guitars onto the other side of it, and I actually set up a microphone, and I actually played and sang the song to my friends. And if you look closely, I because I was doing the song on my own, I even did the tapping part, but then I also specifically had to do it with the pick because that's how you used to do it back then.
Fucking hell,
So
man. That's so
yeah,
crazy.
I know, right?
Nice.
Who the fuck would think like it's just some 15-year-old kid in Iran playing fucking Behemoth songs, you know, to his friends on a birthday?
Yeah,
But
it's amazing.
yeah,
I
it
love the
obviously
story.
it mostly sounded quite shit as you would expect, you know, but it was still pretty good. I think quite a defining moment for me personally, actually, for like my personality, and it
Oh yeah,
those kind of
definitely.
events define who I am in a sense, you know. So yeah,
Yeah,
cheers to
man.
that.
I mean, it's like it reminds me, so obviously you're just a few years younger than I am, but in these times, it could be a big difference when it comes to technology and everything, And but what I mean is like when I uh, when I was like 14, 15, in Poland in the 90s, it was also not so obvious to get all these things, like the equipment was shitty, that we were using, like me and uh, my friend that we played in Blinded as well. I grew up with him. We
Mhm.
were like jamming in my room, uh, connected to one amp with this like two jack split, and
Right.
uh, and he had a I think he had a metal zone, and I
Mhm.
had a HM2, and
Of
so
course.
we so both of us had like our own, lines, like, oh, I have metal zone, I have heavy metal. Then it was going all into one amp, which was like 20 watts or something,
Yeah.
and we were playing like Cannibals or Emperor and all this stuff, we grew up with, and just trying to jam with it and headbanging, just in my fucking room, and I think these beginnings that we had without internet, without YouTube, and without easy access for all for everything basically right now, that I think they were so crucial to who are we becoming as artists and as human beings as well, because it kind of teached us, you know um, like, we started from the ground, the ground level, and we climbed slowly up, and that's usually the best way to build things, in general.
Absolutely.
I believe, it's like learn it the hard way, and then you appreciate what you built in years, and that's how I see it. I was also like, I was staying up late. I was fortunate enough to have like satellite TV at home when I was a kid, because my grandfather was sailing. We lived in a port town, so he was like bringing lots of stuff from abroad, So we had satellite TV at some point, and so I could watch Headbangers Ball on MTV, and I was recording it, and I saw so much stuff there, like that was my source, and I had my parts, like you had the tapping that that you were that you were pointing out that I did, which is I will never forget that story, man. It's like it's so
Hmm.
important, like to hear about somebody growing up in Iran, just trying to what I did, trying to
Yeah.
do what I did years ago. It just reminds me about me watching, I don't know, Sepultura, on Headbangers Ball, like playing, Arise and and trying to be them, watching Pantera, and stuff, and then discovering all these obscure bands. For me, actually the first, like the darkest bands that I reached out for were like Samael, like early Samael, and the first albums of Katatonia, and it's like these were. Then I realized that they were just inspired like by other bands, But
Yeah.
for me, it didn't matter back then. Like I still prefer Samael, Worship Him, and Blood Ritual than any Celtic Frost album, because Celtic Frost came to me later, you know, and
Interesting.
I
Right. I
I
see.
didn't really I of course I respect Hellhammer and everything. It's just at the time I was growing up I didn't hear it. I heard
Hmm.
Samuel, and Samuel was basically, copying a lot of riffs from Celtic Frost, especially in the
Ye-
beginning, or Hellhammer. But for me, there's this sentimental side, I guess. It's like when I hear Worship Him and Blood Ritual, I'm like, oh shit, this was the evil shit, and
It's like it just takes you back, isn't it? It's like a part of your mind that activates where it's almost like that first initial experience of it that you had. It's almost like it's ever expanding in your mind, and every now and then you revisit that explosion of like, oh fuck, like when you discover
yeah.
that kind of moments in music for the first time.
Definitely, I like this. I like these trips to the past. Like with
Yeah,
the albums. And I don't do them often, but every once in a while, there's something that brings me back to those days. It's good to it's good to feed your like inner child. Wake it up, sort of with these impulses, because I feel that's what happens when you listen to the stuff that triggered you when you were like 12, and
sure.
it triggers good things, basically, I think. And
No, I think so too, because I think that, like the older that you get, shit just gets more complicated, doesn't it? Especially when you become a musician yourself, you get involved in the scene, and then there's like lots of different emotions attached to it. And that's why I think it's always refreshing. I mean, you always hear all of these bands who've been around for like 20, 30 years say that, oh, when they listen to Iron Maiden or Judas Priest, and then they instantly like go back to that mode of actually enjoying it, rather than I suppose see the music as a form of competition. Even I don't know if it's that, but it's definitely I think a good thing to just strip everything down and just take it for what it is, and just be able to feel the emotion that it evokes in you. But you mentioned something interesting there. Actually, you said that you and your friends, when you used to sit there in the room, you used to play like Cannibal or Emperor through the amp. So obviously, speaking of that, for sure you have been a musician for I think what 2-3 decades now or something. It's been a long time. You've been playing this, but what I'm interested in, what's your perspective? Obviously, you mentioned Emperor. Obviously, playing them in a bedroom, their music like many years ago, but now actually getting to work with them close in person. I suppose the same with Dimmu as well. I mean, talk about working with fucking professionals, man. And I'm just wondering, like, what's your sort of shift of perspective with that, and also what have you actually learned from working with these people?
That's one of the most interesting things that I'm trying to figure out. It's like, because as you mentioned, and I mentioned that I listened to those bands and I kind of connected with their music, with their expression when I was a kid already, and the same goes with Katatonia, which I actually work with as well right now.
Correct. Yeah.
And they became one of my favorite bands in general. Like their progress was kind of also my progress when it comes to changing, like opening up for softer kind of music, like different kinds of music in general. And I always connected a lot with what Jonas lyrics were about, and there was a moment where I started working. First, it was Therion, one of the big bands that I started working with. Therion, which was for a very short while, there was something that connected me with their music when I was a kid, when the Lepaka Clifford album was out, and Theli, basically,
Mm.
and it was something new, like with this orchestral symphonic kind of additions, to the to heavy music. And when I started working with them, it was like 2000, was it 2007 or 8, something like that. I worked with them for 10 years, but I was like, that was the first moment I started to realize that I kind of that there was some kind of energy that brought me there. I
Mm.
didn't really try to work with Therion. It just happened. And uh, then I also, during I was working with Therion, I started working with Riverside as well, this Polish prog rock band, which kind of was influential for me as well. And we became very close friends with the guitar player that I was working with, Piotr Grudzinski, who passed away in 2016, sadly. But that was like the first close relationship I had with. It was work, but it was friendship as well. Like
Hmm.
very close friendship. And after that, I got an offer to work with Emperor, and this happened because I was befriended with Leprous, with a band called Leprous, and Einar, the singer, his sister is Ishan's wife,
Sure. Yeah.
so they are family basically, and me and Leprous, we kind of got close because their first tour was with Therion in 2010. They were like the first open no second opening band or something, and there was like few things that I did that got us closer. I helped them out with some things, because they were rookies basically, so, and I was always on stage and they had some technical problems, and I helped them out. We became friends afterwards, and then they were like, "Oh, Havoc, if we can ever afford, we'd like you to come on tour with us." And so, then my band Blinded went on tour with Leprous for 4 weeks in Europe. And this, why am I saying this? Because it's all like human connections. It's all that brought me to where I am right now. And
I see a lot of butterfly effects happening.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's you can call it whatever. Um, I call it universal exchange.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And it happens, and then I received a text message from Ishan, one day, out of the blue. I had no idea. Einar told me something half a year earlier at some festival. He said like, "Oh man, I think I got you a new job, offer or something, but I forgot about it. Nothing happened, and
Hmm.
like half a year later, 9 in the morning, I get the text message from Ishan from Emperor, and like, hey dude, do you want to work for Emperor? It's like I was like, what? That's the best news of the day. It's
Yeah.
like, of course I do. So I started working with them,
Mm.
and because of their manager Håkon Graf, who is also a manager of Dimmu nowadays.
Okay.
So that's how I got the Dimmu work as well,
Right.
because Dimmu was coming back a year later, and that's how I ended up in their camp as well, and that's where a lot of good things were began, like started, because I quickly bonded with Silenos Sven Atle,
Hmm.
and we became really good friends, and there was a lot of good things happening around that friendship before the pandemic, and uh, his wisdom opened my head for a lot of things, and we created this amplifier, a signature amplifier for him, done by the company called MLC in
Right.
Poland,
That's
and
that's correct. Yeah. Yeah.
which I actually uh, uh, worked for during the pandemic for some time. But there was this like super creative situation that was born out of this, and it's all, the seed was in that room when I was like 13 and 15, and Throne Darkness Triumphant was released, and that was actually with Demo. It was the only album that kind of for a time, for a short while, there was something for me. I wasn't really a big fan afterwards, and it's more like a human connection right now.
Hmm.
They're a fantastic live band and everything, but it's not the band that I like listen to so much, like I did with Mayhem or Emperor. But it's so interesting that I sort of projected my future in that room, when where I was listening to all these bands like on repeat, and
Yeah.
years later, 20 years later, actually, 20 years later, I ended up in their camp and became friends with, and that's also how I met Jonas from Katatonia on
Hmm.
the Demo tour, which was Bloodbath was the support band on that tour, on the Demo Creator tour, and I met Jonas, who was always my kind of artist that I looked up to, when it comes to lyrics
Yeah.
and the whole evolution of the band, and my band Blinded was obviously heavy, among other things, inspired by Katatonia as well. So, it's all one big bubble, and I understand these things a lot better right now, and I kind of I figured out how it all works. It's just like it's this like, as I said, a universal exchange, which
Yeah.
is just a free exchange of energy, of good energy between people, which brings you to a good places, to creative places, and basically, uh, right now I am learning how to use it to my advantage, on other grounds, or whatever you call it, like creative grounds,
Sure. Absolutely, man. I mean, I think when you've lived long enough, or actually I should say, like, I feel like the time length is almost irrelevant, but when you live and you start to actually see things, and then that can almost happen in a short period of time, actually,
Oh
as we've
yes.
come to discover, but I think that you do realize that everything is connected in a way,
Yeah.
and that every little action, everything that you put out there, it'll eventually make its way back to you in some way. That's why especially the older I'm getting, I'm becoming so conscious of, not in a stagnant way, but I'm conscious of just being true to myself when it comes to dealing with people, and when it comes to dealing with situations, and to avoid acting emotionally, to have a flow of emotion, so like still deal with compassion and things like that, but not act out of panic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And always stick true to your own, stay true to yourself, basically, be real, as they say.
And don't force things,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
because that was one of the things that was one of the mistakes I was making in the past,
Mhm.
that I thought that I have to force things, when it comes to especially my band Blinded. I sort of felt this mm, driving force, for to push this band, forward, and it kind of worked, but I wasn't doing it consciously, and like, the way I see things right now is different, and I realized that I'm not going to ever again force anybody to do anything, you know. So yeah, I'm on the verge of coming back to what I was doing all my life when it comes to creative work musically. Most of my life, creatively, is blinded. Basically, when it comes to music,
Mhm.
that's my main creative child. And so I'm really at the point where I didn't say it publicly yet. So you're the first. I guess
I'm all
there's
ears.
no decisions made. It's just like it feels that it's about time to come back to my main creative child, which is Blinded. And
Mhm.
and yeah, I started doing it, and we'll see how it will end up. But as I said, there's not going to be any forcing of anybody to do anything. So it's really up to other people if they want to be part of it, or you know or not. It's
Yeah.
like I'm here with open arms. It's like, but I'm never going to go back to what was destroying me when it comes to that creative world. And so yeah, I mean, I was never uh, as creative as I am right now when it comes to music. And I wrote so much music for what could potentially be the new Blinded album, and I am trying to make it be that way. Actually, so there's exciting things happening and exciting people involved, and there's so much good energy happening in my life right now that I'm just like, I'm trying to grasp it in a calm way, and just like enjoy it. And you know that's why we are talking outside. Actually, I am outside
Mhm.
because I was like, for the past days when I was like adjusting to stay at home, I was mostly at home, like
Mhm.
anxious and everything, like didn't want to see people. And since yesterday, I'm just like spending most of the time outside, just inhaling the free the free spirits, whatever it is, you know.
Mm.
The city I moved to is full of green, you know, like as you can see.
Yeah.
I'm in a city basically, but you know, there's so many parks, and it's a good place. You can you know, you can find a good place easily to calm your thoughts and stuff, you know, and or come to record a podcast with you.
Yeah, that's right. Well, listen, man, that's very exciting to hear about Blinded. I mean, listen, I feel inspired just fucking talking to you right now, you know, because it's like I can feel the thing, and you made a very important point by saying that like you can't force it, and I think that is a very important thing to keep in mind in any areas of life, you know, whether it's friendships, relationships, or especially in a creative context. You know, I mean, you know what they say, love is like a fart. If you have to force it, it's probably shit. You know, so and
I like that one.
yeah, and
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think you can exactly say the same thing with art. You know, and to me, I think they're kind of like they're of the same source anyway. Actually, in my world, so yeah,
Exactly. I mean,
yeah.
exactly. You know, it's just like it's you know, uh, I respect everybody that created what we created together with Blinded. It's like, you know, it's a long story. There's no point of getting into the details, but overall, it's like you know, when you put aside all the complicated you know, emotional reactions and everything, you know, um, it's like uh, you know, it all comes to a point where you should answer yourself a question: are you, is this something you're part of, is this something natural, or is
Mm,
is it something that you were attached to for years?
yeah,
And like, you know, and for me, this is the most natural thing ever, you know,
yeah.
that I was doing with this band and with these people, you know, which you know, which came to a point where it started dissolving. Is it yeah, dissolving, right? Like
Hmm.
uh disappearing, you know, or like parting ways, you know, and now it's like, you know, should we force it, or should people just do whatever they really feel to, you know, they want to do, you know, because there's like, it's, we're not talking about Guns N' Roses, you know, or Rammstein, you know. It's like, it's not these sorts of deals, you know. It's more like a creative choice, you know, and everybody makes their own, you know, and obviously my creative choice, from what I hear uh, from the material that I wrote right now, you can't fool it. It sounds like Blinded, you know,
Mm.
and um, and everybody else that went sideways, you know, they do their own stuff, and it's very interesting music and very good stuff, but it's completely different, you know. And I'm like, you know, the gates are open, you know. It's just like my my perception, and as you said, like, what changed is that I'm not going to you know, force anyone, or for even, you know, and especially myself, to do anything, you know. I'm an open book, you know, and that's it, you know. That's you know, I want to do something, and I really feel content about what's being created, and I'm giving it a time, you know. It's like,
Hmm.
the plan is to release the album in 2023, so you know, there's still a lot of time, and you know, I'm not rushing it, but most of the album is already written, so it's like, I'm calm, you know.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's very exciting to hear, man. And I think that, to your point as well, uh, obviously, with it being, obviously, this is your sort of creative love child. or whatever you want to call it, but obviously it involves it does have the involvement of other people in it as well. But I think one of the things that's important to, I think, consider sometimes is that in a creative, not just in a creative situation, actually, I think in any situation, I think there's a degree of leadership and taking responsibilities that does, I think, attribute to the success of a situation. But also, the best way to do that, I think, as they always say, lead by example. And I think having that kind of approach of just letting things flow and just making it enjoyable and doing it because it's enjoyable rather than trying to force it just for the sake of like making something out of it. It's like children when they've got them little things that you got to put the different shapes through it. It's like forcing a triangle to go through the square
Yeah,
kind of thing.
exactly,
You know what I
exactly.
mean?
It's simple as that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes, but
Sure.
it requires it requires other people to open their minds, and accepting things as they are
Mhm.
as
Yeah.
well. So I can't feel responsible for that, and never will anymore. I used to care too much, about what other people think or say, or just to just to keep them involved, but I mean, it's at the end, it's up to those people if they want to do something or not. you know
Yeah, everyone will see something from their own perspective anyway. I mean, it's the Aleister Crowley saying, it's like you could be looking at a person from this side and then someone else could be looking from there. You might be seeing different, you're looking at the same thing, but then you're also seeing it slightly different from one another as well. And I think it's that kind of a situation,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
definitely, definitely. And I understand that, and I accept people being different, and it's just that, I came to a point where there's no more time to wait for somebody to understand something. Look from the other angle, so,
Sure.
you know I'm just
Yeah.
I'm going straight. I think the path I chose is the right one for me, and let's see what future holds.
That's right, man. That's right. Mateusz, I don't know if you still have time. Are you okay? I'm just gonna. Cool, man. So obviously, one thing that I really wanted to sort of round things up here with as well is with everything that's obviously yourself have been through, all of the transformations, especially in the last couple of years and things like that, but also the whole journey of being a musician, playing such shows at such a young age and then pretty much dedicating so much of your life to it, to the point that you are at now, where things seem so clear and there seems to be like a universal flow to your approach to things. What would be your advice to, let's say, a musician or any artist, or in fact, anyone who has pursued any specific path to their choosing in their life, where that things can sometimes get tedious, and then ideas that are in our heads, sometimes there can be like a little bit of a clash with reality. So what would be your advice if someone like that, what's the best way to tread along, as they say?
The best way is I'm not sure if I'm a right person to advise, but what I learned in my life is like, the most important thing that I learned right now is that there was this intuition, that voice inside that was always there, but I didn't really believe it. I didn't really
Mm.
listen to it, and I started to listen to it just recently when I went through the whole transformation, and for me it took maybe a way longer that some other people could start listening to it earlier, especially if you're a free soul, an artistic soul, and you you have this insecurity, within you, because you don't know how to do things. It's just like that's what got me lost for some time. I didn't know how to do things, and I was trying too hard. I was like, I was
Mm.
pushing it too hard, and that was kind of my mistake, because it brought me to dark points. But in the same time, all of the experiences that we meet on our way are important. So I'm grateful even for the darkest ones, which were the result of my mistakes. So it's like, it's hard to advise somebody uh, in general. Everybody's a bit different. But if you're an artistic soul and want to create, the best way is the against the stream way. Against all odds. Just believe in yourself, and do the best you can, and be good to yourself, and listen to yourself. Don't listen to other people. Like, only only you know what's good for you, basically, and all the rest is noise. That's what I think. And my life started to get better when I started to really listen to myself, and understood that all the blind like little alleys that I went to, where other people misleading me, with their visions and influence. So I guess, my advice is, stay true to yourself, and follow your own path. It's gonna be hard, but at least you're gonna be yourself on it, and that's the biggest chance you have to become who you were meant to become, and shine as an artist, or whoever you want to be.
Well, nothing good comes easy, right?
No,
That's it.
definitely.
Yeah. Well, brother, I very much appreciate you coming on to the podcast. This is actually, I've very much enjoyed this chat with you, man. We got to do it again some other time, I think.
Cool, man.
But yeah, that's great. Before we go, is there anything you'd like to plug to the audience at all? Of anything you've got coming up? Obviously, besides the Blindead project, which you said that
Well,
you've got some ideas for.
if you're interested in what's happening, I'm quite open on my vlog,
Hmm.
on YouTube. And recently, I started doing this like touring vlogs. So I'm showing my trips with Emperor, and there's a festival with Katatonia coming up. So yeah, if you're interested in my professional life as well, this summer there's going to be quite a few festivals that I'm showing, from behind the scenes, from the kitchen.
Yes.
so so
Yeah.
maybe we
I've
can
actually
adapt
been
the.
quite enjoying those, man. They're pretty cool, and I think for anyone else, who wants to just have some little bit of insight into what goes into that side of things, I think it's very fascinating to watch. I highly
Cool,
recommend
man.
everyone
So
to check out your
we can
channel.
we can add a link to my YouTube,
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
under your podcast or something. So feel
don't you
free
worry about
to
it, man.
subscribe and check it out. And it was
Yeah,
great, really great to chat with you, man.
yeah,
Looking forward to
absolutely,
the next
man.
one.
Yes, yes, me too. Likewise, man. I very much appreciate it. And like I said, to you at the beginning as well, this is actually somewhat nostalgic for me as well. To even be having this conversation. Considering all of the
Huh.
background and stuff which I've already described to you. So I very much
I'm glad
appreciate
to
you
hear
coming
it,
on, man.
man. It was
Yes,
a pleasure. Thanks, man.
excellent to hear. And to everyone else, obviously listening to the podcast as well, thank you all very much for checking out Iblis Manifestations, and I will see you all on the next episode.